Hello, everybody. This is our presentation on the Sykes-Picot Treaty by myself, John Matthew Hidalgo, Katie McDonald, and Joseph Rathnall.
All right, so foremost, the Sykes-Picot Treaty was an agreement signed between Britain and France in the year 1916, 2 years before the war was over, and it covered the area of the Middle East, specifically who would control it, assuming an Allied victory. Because the Ottoman Empire was viewed as so weak, it was expected to collapse either before or during the war. This agreement was meant to organize the remaining territory and establish Britain and France's respective spheres of influence. However, the important thing to realize about this agreement is that it was a violation of previous promises made between the Allies and those in the Middle East in the earlier years of the war. The McMahon-Hussein correspondence was a series of letters promising Arabic independence if they helped defeat the Ottoman Empire for the Allies. Yet, the Sykes-Picot Agreement was a purposeful backstab in order for the Allies to obtain more colonies in the Middle East region. The graph at the top right reveals the territory granted to European powers, and the bottom middle graph shows the Ottoman territory it was taken from.
The immediate effects from the Sykes-Picot Agreement left a significant impact on the shape of the Middle East. The first effect of the treaty, as seen on the map displayed, was that it created borders which divided the territories in the Middle East that the Ottoman Empire previously ruled over. The countries of Syria, Lebanon, Palestine, Iraq, Kuwait, Yemen, and Arabia were established as a result, as seen in the graph. It was also agreed upon the British and the French were permitted to have influence over these territories and were allowed to trade and pass through each other's areas. Ultimately, these short-term effects were not a contribution to the self-determination of the Middle East due to the agreement that Britain and France were also to mold the governments of the territories as they wanted, which limited the freedoms and influence of the people living in them.
The implications from the Sykes-Picot Agreement left long-term substantial impact to the Middle East that extend to the modern day. Firstly, it established the artificial boundaries in the Middle East that divided family tribes and brought rivals together. As seen in the map, the Middle East is an incredibly diverse region, not one meant to be carelessly grouped together. Britain and France were motivated by both political and economic power rather than stabilizing the region, leading them to divide the region based on their own self-interest rather than the interests of the natives. Among these interests was the ability to self-govern rather than to be ruled by European powers, which was promptly ignored by Britain. This leads us into the next long-term effect, in which the treaty was indirectly caused the extremist demands for self-determination in the Middle East today. The broken promises made by the Allies caused extreme distrust towards them from the natives in the Middle East, causing them to develop more extremist routes to advance their independence. This furthered the separation between the European powers and the Middle Eastern Arabs, again causing much more of the tension we see today between these two groups. Lastly, the most important long-term impact of the Sykes-Picot Agreement were the conflicts seen between the Arab nationalists and the Jewish peoples today, caused by the promises made in both the McMahon-Hussein letters and the 1917 Balfour Declaration. The 1917 Balfour Declaration promised a self-governing Jewish homelands, while the McMahon-Hussein letters promised British recognition of an independent Arab state. These promises were directly broken by the Sykes-Picot Agreement, in which an independent Arab state wasn't created, and while an independent Palestine was planned, it was shortly put under British control. This means by the Sykes-Picot Agreement did not directly appeal to the ideals of the groups involved in the Middle East, creating problems in the Middle East that extend to the modern day.
To conclude, the self-determination of both a Jewish homeland and an Arab state, both promised by Britain, led to problems in the Middle East that extend to today. And because the ideals of self-determination weren't met, tension was created between both groups, which once again extends till today.